Have you ever sat down to do something important, told yourself you just check your phone for a second, and then looked up 40 minutes later wondering where the time went? That's not a willpower problem. That's not laziness. That's a biological system being hijacked in real time, and most people have absolutely no idea it's happening to them. Today we're going to talk about the dopamine trap, not in the surface level way you've probably heard before, where someone just tells you to use your phone less and go touch grass. We're going deeper than that. We're going to look at what's actually happening inside your brain, why it's destroying your ability to reach your potential, and most importantly, what you can do starting today to take that system back. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. The same brain chemistry that once helped humans survive is now being used against you by some of the most sophisticated technology companies on the planet. And the scary part is, they designed it that way on purpose. Let's start at the beginning. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter, a chemical messenger your brain uses to signal reward and motivation. For most of human history, dopamine was released in response to things that genuinely helped us survive. Finding food, forming social bonds, solving a real problem, completing a physical task. The dopamine hit came after the effort. That sequence was the whole point. Work hard, get rewarded, feel good, repeat. But here's where everything went sideways. Modern technology, specifically social media apps, video platforms, and mobile games, figured out how to trigger that same reward signal without requiring any real effort at all. A like on your photo, a new notification, an autoplay video, a slot machine-style feed that gives you something interesting, just often enough to keep you scrolling. These things deliver tiny doses of dopamine constantly, and your brain, which evolved for scarcity, has no natural defense against that level of abundance. What happens over time is something researchers call downregulation. When your brain gets flooded with dopamine signals repeatedly, it starts reducing the number of receptors available to receive them. It's basically trying to protect itself from overstimulation. But the side effect is that normal, meaningful activities start to feel flat and boring by comparison. Sitting down to read a book feels painful. Starting a difficult work project feels overwhelming. Having a deep conversation feels draining. Everything that used to feel satisfying now feels like it requires too much, because your brain's reward threshold has been pushed so high by constant stimulation that real life can't compete anymore. This is the trap, and most people living inside it don't even know it exists. Think about the last time you felt genuinely bored. Not just mildly understimulated for 30 seconds before you reached for your phone, but actually sat with boredom and let it exist. For most people, that hasn't happened in years. And that's a massive problem, because boredom is not the enemy of productivity. Boredom is actually the doorway to creativity, deep thinking, and intrinsic motivation. When your brain isn't being constantly fed external stimulation, it goes inward. It starts to generate its own ideas, its own drive, its own sense of purpose. But if you never let that happen, that internal engine never turns on. Here's where it gets even more interesting from a psychological standpoint. The dopamine trap doesn't just affect what you do in your free time. It fundamentally rewires how you process difficulty. When you've conditioned your brain to expect instant rewards, your tolerance for delayed gratification drops dramatically, and almost everything worth having in life requires delayed gratification. Building a business, developing a meaningful skill, creating something that lasts, getting physically strong, building deep relationships. These things take months, sometimes years. They involve stretches of time where progress is invisible, and the work is genuinely hard. But if your dopamine system has been trained to expect a hit every 90 seconds, you will unconsciously avoid anything that doesn't deliver that immediate feedback, even if that thing would change your life. This is why incredibly smart, capable people feel stuck. This is why people with real talent and real ambition spend years spinning their wheels without making meaningful progress. It's not that they lack potential. Their neurological environment is working against the kind of patient, focused effort that potential actually requires to become something real. Now let's talk about what you can actually do, because awareness without action is just another form of procrastination. The first thing you need to understand is that you cannot willpower your way out of this. Telling yourself to just stop is like telling someone with a broken leg to just walk it off. The system is deeper than conscious decision-making. You need to change your environment before you can reliably change your behavior. Start with friction. One of the most powerful things you can do is add deliberate friction between yourself and your highest dopamine sources. Move social media apps off your home screen. Put your phone in a different room when you're working. Use website blockers during specific hours. The goal is not to punish yourself. The goal is to introduce just enough delay between the impulse and the action that your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational decision-making, has time to catch up and ask whether this is actually what you want to be doing right now. The second strategy is scheduled dopamine. Instead of trying to eliminate your rewards entirely, which is unrealistic and actually counterproductive, you designate specific windows for high stimulation activities. You watch your shows, you check social media, you play your game, but it happens on your schedule, not the algorithm's schedule. This shifts you from reactive consumption to intentional consumption. That shift alone changes your relationship with those activities fundamentally. Third, and this one is crucial, you need to start building what researchers call intrinsic reward tolerance. This means regularly engaging with activities that are inherently difficult, produce no external validation, and deliver their rewards slowly. Learning an instrument, writing in a journal with no audience, going for a long run, sitting quietly and thinking. These activities feel almost painfully boring at first, especially if your dopamine system is dysregulated. But consistency with them literally rebuilds your brain's capacity to find meaning in effort. You're essentially rebuilding the neural pathways that modern technology has been quietly eroding. The fourth strategy involves reframing what discomfort means to you. Right now, when you sit down to do something hard and that familiar urge to check your phone or switch tasks arises, your brain is interpreting that discomfort as a signal to stop. But that discomfort is actually a sign that you're in the zone where real growth happens. Learning to sit with that feeling, not to eliminate it but to recognize it as progress, is one of the most powerful cognitive shifts you can make. And the fifth strategy is perhaps the most underrated: sleep. Dopamine system regulation is deeply tied to sleep quality. When you're sleep deprived, your brain's reward circuits become hyperactive, and your impulse control degrades significantly. You become more vulnerable to every trigger, and less capable of choosing the hard path. Protecting your sleep is not optional if you're serious about reclaiming your focus and your potential. Here's the bigger picture, and I want you to really sit with this. We are living in a moment in human history that is genuinely unprecedented. Never before have human beings had access to this volume of instant stimulation, and the technology delivering it is evolving faster than our understanding of its effects. The people building these platforms are not bad people, but they are operating incentive structures that reward engagement above everything else, including your well-being, your productivity, and your sense of purpose. Nobody is coming to protect your attention for you. The algorithm is not going to develop a conscience. The notifications are not going to stop, which means that if you want to live a life that reflects your actual capabilities, if you want to build something meaningful, master something difficult, or become someone you're genuinely proud of, you have to make a conscious choice to opt out of the default setting that this environment is trying to lock you into. The people who are going to thrive in this era are not necessarily the smartest or the most talented. They're the ones who figure out how to protect their dopamine system, the ones who build lives around real effort and real reward, the ones who can sit in discomfort long enough for something meaningful to emerge. Your potential is not the problem. The environment you're operating in is working against your potential, and now you understand exactly why. So what are you going to do differently starting today? Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Because every scroll, every passive notification check, every moment of unconscious consumption is a vote for the version of yourself that stays stuck. And you've been watching this video, which tells me you want something more than that. The trap is real, but now you can see it. And once you can see it, you can start walking out of it.